really want to take it all the way back to Philly with the A's. I would love to kind of go through the different ballparks that the A's have played through throughout their whole franchise.
Sure. Well, we can go back to a little more history than that. Okay. So most of your ballparks built up into, the early 1900s are all made of wood.
Yep.
Right. And they didn't, people back then smoked a little bit more than they do now.
And they burn down.
Cigar. They all the percentage of ballparks that burn down is crazy. It's like
just because people smoking, that's great.
Or whatever. I don't know how that's just how I presume they caught fire. But they all burned down. Right. And so they just go in and build another one of wood the Philadelphia Phillies were the first one that actually built the Baker Bowl in the 1800s, but in 1895 they upgraded it. It was the first they actually used brick and some steel in there, right? And so because the one that the ballpark they were playing at before burned down, so the owner was like, you know what? I don't want this one to burn down. Let's make it everything they can't burn, right? So they built it out of brick. So it was the first one that was actually like that. Nothing built for another 15 years until 1909 was made out of brick or steel, right? In the meantime, in the early 1900s, they kind of perfected steel reinforced concrete. If you look at go Google images of the Packard plant in Detroit, it was built in 1905. It's been abandoned for 50 years, and it's still, it's still solid. As a rock. I snuck up in there actually when I was in Detroit, just moved around that building. But so 1909, the A's decided to they basically revolutionized baseball the way Camden Yards revolutionized the last generation, right? They built Shibe Park.
That was in 1909, right?
Yeah, 1909. Yeah. It was the first brick, steel reinforced concrete, and stadium ever built.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful structure. It's built like an actual cathedral. And when it opened, there wasn't a ballpark in baseball that could even compare to it, right? Wow. And the same. And the same thing happened when Camden Yards were open. Like as soon as Camden Yards were open, they're like, "Whoa, I want one of those." Right? Yep. Every owner said to themselves, right? So same thing in 1909 when Shibe Park was built and Forbes Field came in slightly after. Everybody was like, "Well, this is the way to go." And between 1909 and 1915, pretty much every team got a new ballpark.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yankee Stadium was built in 1923, and by then every team had already had it.
So, do you know much about? I saw actually. I was looking on Wikipedia. They actually played at a stadium before Shibe Park. It was called Columbia Park. Do you know anything about that? It was from 1901 to 08. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, it was just like any ballpark at the time. It was, it was just made of wood and it's very small capacity. And even though the A's, came out of the gate, early, they were good. The whole white elephant story.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Because he started and got all the good players, and they were the white elephant in the room. But so the A's, is first 1901 to 1908, they were really good. But obviously outgrew their ballpark, and just like any stadium built in that era is not very memorable.
Well, I think it's funny that the A's, they had this reputation of being a cheap franchise, but I guess they had that back in the day too, right? I saw they might have even thrown the 1914 World Series because Connie Mack was so frugal or something like that. So it's different times. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.